Hey, everybody. This is David from Sound Epistemology, Street Epistemology from the Puget Sound. And I'm here with some buddies of mine that we're going to review a video that I uploaded not too long ago. You guys want to introduce yourself? Maybe Mark, William, Dali, John, and then Reid?
Sounds good. Hey, everybody. I'm Mark. Mark. I'm from the Being Reasonable YouTube and podcast. And I'm glad to be here reviewing an awesome video.
Hi, I'm Will, Inspire Reflection YouTube channel. Yeah, that's it. That's all for me. Just Dali addressing his balls.
Yes. I'm Dali. I teach people to juggle. And as a side gig, I also teach people to critically think. And I do so sometimes on my own channel, Juggling Lessons.
Hi, I'm John. Quality Questions YouTube channel. Yeah, also short and sweet. That's me.
Yep, and Reid here from Cordial Curiosity. Glad to be here.
Awesome. I like the short and sweet is John's new tagline. I think that's
not much more to say. I don't have. Yeah.
Own it, buddy.
So, any context for this video we need, David?
No, I think we should just jump right in.
All right, let's do it.
Cool.
But not into the water. Stay out of the water. That's the microphones.
It's a travesty.
Yeah.
All right. We missed the drone shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay if I record?
Yeah, no problem. That's all good.
Cool. Thanks for stopping.
Yeah, absolutely.
How's your day going?
Oh man, it's going good, man. I'm, cool chilling, ain't got no complaints. Just out here taking myself out and just doing some self-care,
Self-care?
Yeah.
Hanging out in the fresh air and stuff?
Fresh air with the self-care, that's it.
Right on.
Meaningful. What's meaningful? Meaningful. Do you mind if I sit this to the side though? I don't want to get that
Yeah,
food
I can
in
sit
there.
down here for you.
Yeah. Get the food in the interview,
It's right under you.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Is he responding to a banner? Oh, yeah, you got the banner. What's meaningful already sounds like some good reflection going on already.
All right.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I've got this whiteboard sign that I'm able to change the message, and I get to experiment with different things that I write on the whiteboard. In this on this day, I think what I had written down was YouTube interviews, something meaningful or something meaningful to you. I try to let the whiteboard do all the work for busking. That way, the people that really want to have an interview are the ones that are going to be doing it. And so what's cool about it too is that it turns into like a little sandwich board. So I can have one message on one side, a different message on the other. It's also magnetic. So I can, put little Post-it notes on there and use magnets if I need to. It's pretty handy. But what I wrote on the whiteboard, I think does a lot of work for me. YouTube, just that having on there gives them the expectation that it's being recorded and it's probably going to be put online somewhere. Interviews gives them the expectation that I'm going to be asking them questions. And then something meaningful kind of gives the context of what I'm looking for. So
That's cool.
what I generally tell them that the more meaningful the topic is to you, the more meaningful the conversation is going to be. And so that kind of helps direct the type of topic that I'm looking to have discussed.
That's awesome because it doesn't mention any of we don't talk about belief or faith or claim. These things can trip people up, I think, and yeah, I like that.
Yeah, wide open.
Yep.
How long you been doing it, being a YouTuber?
Well, I've had one YouTube channel that basically has all kinds of stuff since like 2008.
Oh, okay.
But I started this particular channel for this kind of thing. It's been less than a year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not very long.
That's cool.
What was your name again?
Thomas
Okay. Thomas.
Jackson. You can actually find me on YouTube under Thomas Jackson.
Okay. Do you want to
Yeah.
promote that?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Sometimes, well, I usually leave out the last name, but if
That's
if
my
it means
artist
to
name.
promote,
So I do music. So that's my artist name,
perfect.
Thomas Jackson.
If you're okay having that on YouTube for like promotion purposes,
Yeah, we could do that.
then I'm cool with that. Awesome. Good to meet you. My name's David.
David, nice to meet you.
And just to recap about what I'm doing is I'm interviewing folks about something they think is true, something that's meaningful to them. And my job is to ask questions from a neutral perspective
Okay.
that helps us explore how you arrived at the belief or the conclusion
Okay.
and what supports your confidence that it's true.
Facts.
Yeah. So, do you have something in mind that you want to explore?
Yeah, let's talk about. I don't believe religion is real. I believe that more so religion is a ploy to keep people either grounded or controlled.
Okay.
Just right off the
Religion was
back, can I just say,
created
like, I
to
really love the way you introduced what SE was there. Like, I love the way you said, like, asking questions from a neutral perspective. I think that was a really, it was a really kind of soft way of doing it. Like, but it was intuitive. People could understand it. It wasn't complicated. It felt really relaxed. I just really liked that.
Yeah, he seems very seasoned at doing it. And I usually do it too fast. I kind of stumble over myself even nowadays. So it's good to take it slow.
Yeah.
Do it right.
control people.
Yeah,
Would that be a good way to put it?
I believe so.
Okay. What do you mean by religion? What's your definition for religion?
So religion is more so like a sect or a group committed to one belief and biased thinking.
Okay. It's a group that shares biased thinking.
Yeah, that's exactly like a group that shares bias. Yeah, biased form of thinking. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. What is bad about a group sharing biased thinking?
So I believe that biased thinking creates separation of people, right?
Okay.
And when you have these biases, you can never embrace what someone has to offer.
Okay.
Has to
Okay.
offer life.
It's hard to understand people when you have bias,
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to.
and that divides people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. I believe that every individual has something to offer life. Every individual has something to give to this life. But if we have our own biases and our own prejudices based on those biases, then we can never really obtain, I believe, our own self power, like our own power within ourselves, right? That we've been given, I believe, from God or the higher power or whichever you decide to believe. I believe that each person or however they grew up has something to give someone that can help them elevate in their way either of thinking or of life. But we tend to take away from that, because of the way that we were raised or one group of people. It's not even religion, it's more so just life in general, right? But a lot of like sects were created or separations were created by religion. And so that's just one form of it. But the biases throughout life when it comes to race or code or creed or whatever, all those biases and prejudices take away from really us allowing ourselves to embrace what life has to offer.
Okay.
I
Everybody
think
has something to offer.
I think it's really interesting because, you hear this epistemology from him, and he doesn't like biased thinking, and it's really interesting. I think just to bookmark this into your mind right now, because when someone says, "I don't like biased thinking," that sounds like a good thing. I want to see things objectively, and I think this, if you bookmark it here in your mind, this sets up the paradox is in his belief of what the fundamental thing he doesn't like and where we get to it by the end of the video. And I just find this absolutely fascinating, this gentleman. because of this epistemology.
Yeah, one other thing I was going to mention as well is up until this point, I think you did a really great job, Dave, of steel manning his positions in a way that was kind of really subtle and conversational the way you were doing it. So you could say, because he was making a claim, he was saying things, and you were basically repeating back to him, but changing the language, changing the word order. All right, and that can be dangerous because if we get into the habit of doing that, we can end up into sort of putting words in other people's mouths. But the way you were framing it and the way you were positioning it, like it was definitely an open question. You were checking that this is what he was saying, and he was agreeing with you. And I just thought it was just really subtle the way it was happening here. But yeah, it was really effective and really casual, and I thought that was awesome. I'm going to have to find more mean things to say about Dave in this video. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to work on it.
Real
I find
quick.
it.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go, John.
So I just wanted to say real quick that like I was honestly very fuzzy on what his claim was until you repeated it back and stated it. And so like kudos for like making a little bit clearer than I think he was. But yeah, not to like, dog on him, but like I just wasn't understanding what he was getting at. But when you said it, I got it. And then also, as far as like Mark is saying, I haven't seen the entire video yet. So what he gets to later, like as of right now, I like the guy. Like I don't want bias in my thinking. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I can get behind that. So I don't know what he says later, but I'm interested. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I find it valuable to repeat back in my own words what I think that they're saying, so that it's just not like a robotic reflection.
Yeah.
I think it adds to the being genuine and showing them, I understand in my own way, in my own words, in my own brain, what you're saying. I think that's valuable too.
Yeah, that can seem a contradiction, because in some places we want to use our interlocutors' terms and language and phraseology to show that we're paying attention to what they're saying and we're mirroring their terms. But I definitely think there's a balance to be struck here, and I think you did a great job of striking that balance. There we go. Dali is pantomiming the concept of balance for you, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, it's so far a great job. I will try and find more things to be mean about.
And if we're biased, we have less of an opportunity to grow,
Yeah.
and
start our growth.
get people to be together, to see things more coherently,
Clearly. Yes.
clearly. Okay.
So for instance, right? Example: somebody who's never been in a survival situation would never know what it's like to survive, right? Somebody who's never lived a great life would never know how to live a great life, right?
It takes
Because-
experience.
It takes experience. Experience is the best teacher, right? So if you can go from surviving to living, then you are that much more powerful than anybody who's ever survived or anybody who's ever really had a great life, because now you can see things from a full spectrum versus just seeing it from one opposing perspective.
And religion prevents this.
I believe so.
Okay. On a scale from 0 to 100, how confident are you that religion divides people?
100.
Just
100?
before we do that, how confident were you at that point that you understood what he just said? Because there seemed to be some. So not trying to be ungenerous, because this gentleman sort of he's outside, he's chilling out, he's relaxing outside, he's being asked to reflect, he's internally reflecting, he's thinking out loud. It's perfectly understandable that he's not putting his thoughts in order, just like I'm not now. Although it's less forgivable. But yeah, he was. But some of what he was saying was basically contradictory, internally contradictory. It didn't seem to make sense. And I guess the question I wanted to ask was like, did you feel like an impulse to try to unpack like what he just said in that moment, or why did you choose to just sort of glance past it and sort of, because you brought the conversation back to his bias claim, which was great. But I'm wondering what your intuition was at that point, because it must have been difficult in some ways.
It's hard to get in my previous self's brain, but I suspect that I wanted to kind of guide the conversation and focus on the claim that we're talking about.
Yeah, makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's tricky. I definitely I get pulled into the weeds sometimes when I think I'm trying to unpack the logic of what somebody's saying, and sometimes it's not actually the most useful conversation we can be having at this point. So I get stuck in that space sometimes.
Yeah, that might have been the difference between a 30-something minute conversation and then the more typical one that I have that lasts more than an hour.
Right.
So I may have been like cognizant about that. Like, my videos have been really long lately. Maybe I should focusing more on the claim and guiding the conversation a little bit better. It's hard to tell at this point. I've had a lot of conversations between then and now, and so it's interesting to watch this. And a self-critique that I've got right now is I'm nodding a lot, and I'm not sure that I recognize that I do that, and I'm wondering how much of that nodding is them thinking that I agree with them versus the real reason why I'm nodding, which is I'm showing them that I'm listening and I'm understanding them, but not necessarily agreeing.
Yep, good point.
Yeah, I hear the word "okay." You're saying "okay" a lot, like "okay," and there's a way you could phrase that where it sounds like an agreement, and there's a way you can phrase that where it's an acknowledgement, and like maybe it can seem like one and not the other when and that can be a problem. But so far, I'm glad you're picking on your technique here, because
I try to say I see or I understand more or stuff like that.
Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah, got it.
Yep. Trademark Chucky.
Okay. What does 100 mean right now to you? Like,
So, for instance, I believe that 100% because from the religions that I've studied, I can't really say all religions, but from the religions that I've studied myself, so I can't really say it's 100%. But because that's on my own bias thinking, right?
okay.
So, right?
So where are you now?
I would say I would probably be, it's not really, you can't really scale that because it's obviously per individual, right? You can't really scale, say from, I would say I can't scale that because, like literally it's per individual. It's literally for me, I embrace everybody. I think that everybody are amazing people, from the homeless man that is, sitting on the corner who has a lot to offer life because he's seen things that people have probably will never see in their life, right? But also you have, the man who's sitting in the high-rise building who's a multi-billionaire like a Jeff Bezos or something, and he has a wealth of knowledge about things that we will never know. So how do we say I can't embrace this man who has a wealth of knowledge in a different aspect and say we can only embrace this one who has a wealth of knowledge just because our society believes that that's the way to be, when that guy could have been a millionaire, which I've met a lot of millionaires, multi-millionaires, who were homeless that just didn't want to be a part of the system.
Okay. They had like a different take on.
Yeah, they just didn't want to be a part of. They just didn't want to be a part of.
Got it. How does that relate to
religion?
Religion divides people.
So
just great way of bringing it back to the claim. That was so good because there was that could have really gone off the rails so quickly, and there was a lot of things that were being claimed there that seemed highly exploration worthy, but just again straight back to the main topic. It was just I definitely would have failed so hard in this, and that was really good. This is
like claim herding.
Claim herding. I like that. Yes, that's good. Yeah, this seems like this is a case study in everything I do wrong. I think I love this video.
And I would say from when I was growing up, I grew up a Baptist in Christianity and things like that, and they would say, if this person didn't believe this way, they're going to hell, or you have to believe a certain way, or you're this, they're wrong, or this person's wrong, or you would try to convince somebody to believe what you believe and tell them that their faith is wrong.
Okay. you said that you were 100% confident that religion divides people, and then I think you decided that you weren't 100%.
Yeah, like you can't really scale it because
I'm asking about the confidence that you have that that's true. Like
so I believe that religion. Okay, so the confidence that I have, I would say it'd be at like a 80-20.
80.
Yeah, 80%, because you do have people that are a part of those particular religions that are open, right, to and receptive to receiving people, but then you have others who are not at all, and majority of the time it's been no.
Some
It's been that way.
religions bring people together,
Yeah,
and that's what supports the 20%.
yeah.
Okay. What percentage of your beliefs or your conclusions,
Okay.
what percentage of those do you think are accurate?
I so want to call it
Percentage.
out. This is a David special. I love this thing. It has stretched my brain.
What was that, Dali? What are you looking at?
What percentage of your beliefs? He asks two questions. What percentage of your beliefs do you think are true? And I just like that's a mousetrap on the brain. I love that one. and then the other question is, what percentage of your beliefs do you want to be true? Which is even more like, how can you answer that other than with totally? It's a good stoker of thought.
Why do you ask that question in that second question about truth that way? What percentage of your beliefs do you want to be true? I don't think I've ever asked that.
This might warrant a different show, but there's been quite an evolution of this whole chunk of questions that I've got. The reason why I ask the first question first, which is, what percentage of the conclusions that you have are you convinced are accurate, is because the second question, what I was finding people were interpreting it to be the first question. And so if I go ahead and ask the first question, that takes care of that question. And then it causes them to think of how many do I hope are true question a little bit more accurately. So I get the question that they think I'm asking out of the way first, so that they can tell the difference between the two questions. And it's kind of a clunky way of asking your question, Mark.
No, it's a better way, actually.
7?
But I think it's cool because if somebody says 80% on the first question and then they say 80% on the second question, well, what I hope to be true, it perfectly aligns with what I think is true.
Yeah.
I think you're saying.
Sometimes they'll give a lower answer to the hope question than they do to the one that they think is accurate, which is fascinating to me. And then it opens up the question. So if they say, I want 80% of my conclusions to be accurate, that opens up the question to ask, so are you saying that you hope 20% of your conclusions are not accurate?
I don't understand anybody that's. But I mean, these questions are brilliant because exactly what I'm about to say is totally true. I do not understand somebody who would not say 100% in response to that second question. I mean, I just don't understand where they're at with that, and like, I can only assume that they've been framed into a misunderstanding of, as you're suggesting, they've been framed into a misunderstanding of the question that's being asked.
So,
would that necessarily follow that
by the form,
if you hope 80%, then you don't hope 20%?
Yeah, I think it does follow that if I'm holding 80% as my goal, I'm allowing 20% failure rate. I could easily say 95%, and I'd say, yeah, I have a 5% failure rate on knowing things that affect my grocery shopping, and I'm fine with that level because
Sorry, go ahead, Dali. Yeah.
I just mean it's a diminishing returns to try to reduce it further in something that doesn't have a significant effect.
this is blowing my brain. We're not measuring the anything here. We're just saying what is the aspiration for the things you know to be
Preference.
true.
Yeah.
My
Yeah,
aspiration is to only go up to a 95% level on
Yeah.
things.
So
Why?
if I somehow could know I knew 80% of the things that I knew were truthful, I would cease to want to know more truthful things because I'd reached some threshold. It seems like an absolutely mind-blowing
Is there
Just my
any,
truth
position for anybody to
threshold for the
take.
day.
is there any reason you would want to be
Not
inaccurate
know
about something?
for 20%
Say
of
it
the
again,
time.
Jeff. Say it again.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
there-
the
is there-
cost of attaining that extra accuracy is doubling my effort.
No, but that's
Okay.
result.
That's
potentially,
irrelevant,
but
though.
that's not really how it's framed. Yeah, it's like I would still want all of the things that I know to be true, even if I can accept the fact that there's an effort to cost benefit result here that I might
Sure.
not want to accept. I would still like them all to be true.
If I were
This
managing
is-
inventory in a warehouse, I would negotiate an acceptable error rate.
I can't imagine that this is how people that you're meeting in the public are framing this question. So as I say,
Okay.
I can only imagine that
Yeah.
somehow because of the way it's being framed, they are confusing the nature of this question somehow. But
This is
yeah,
precisely why I asked the first question first.
right. exactly.
And
this.
I've added a question to this chunk of what percentage of the conclusion our community makes would you hope are accurate?
Yeah, anything less than 100 would sound unusual there, I think.
Yeah, I can't understand why anybody would want to answer not 100% of these questions
Yeah, but I'm
unless they
trying to think
didn't
of,
understand.
I'm trying to think of a case where that's not.
I
included
hope
the
that
case.
physicists don't have the laws of physics down perfectly. I hope there's some error because that will keep
Well-
science interesting. I don't mean that we
Well-
should introduce error. I mean that there should be an unknown.
If
But
we were
could
on a
you-
plane, what percentage of the conclusion our pilot would you want to be accurate?
Well, yes, that's true. But you could also ask, like, what things would you like to know to continue to be wrong about?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that doesn't make any sense. Like how many things are you okay with just being in perpetuity wrong about as a point of principle? I don't
Yeah, or
understand. There would
do you
be
have
any
an
intuition.
example?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Do you have an
something you
example
want to be wrong about.
of a conclusion that you would rather
Hold and be wrong about.
hope to be
Yeah.
wrong about?
Yeah. No, not hope to be wrong about, because there are lots of things I might think are true, but I wish weren't. But
Right.
it's I want to hold the position and be wrong about it as well.
Yes.
That makes no sense to me
Yeah,
whatsoever.
no sense.
Anyway, like I
Yeah.
said,
I don't want to
that
sidetrack
whole-
this by taking
that
us
could
down
be
that rabbit hole.
another show. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we might do a
Oh,
whole
that's
show about that. All right.
Yeah.
So I would say this, that 100% of what I believe is for me to believe, right? So I'm 100% correct in my own belief, right? Now, whether someone else decides to embrace that, that's their choice to believe that, right?
Okay.
So for me, I believe that I can't say because I believe this way, I'm 100% sure that the way that I believe is correct, but it's for my life, it's for my walk, right? And my journey in life.
Okay.
But for other people, it may be different for them.
Uh-huh.
So I can't say that they're wrong.
If
Because
they
Sorry
believe
to stop
something
again, but
else.
this is a really common mistake that I hear, and not a mistake necessarily, but this is an equivocation fallacy. We're confusing the thing being true or it being true that you believe it, and I hear this happen actually in a lot of SE conversations. Like it is true that he believes it; he's honestly believing it, and that is a truth of a way, but it's not the same as the truth of the thing that he believes.
Yeah.
And mistaking those two things happens so often in our conversation space, and yeah, I'm not sure how to.
And for the early SE or for people who are just starting out, you're hearing it like, what am I missing here? Like, it can be confusing until Will explained it well. So yeah.
Yeah, this is where I would be breaking out the Tic Tacs, like, trying to figure out it can both be true at the same time. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Tic
Funny
Tacs
you
or bug
mention the
snacks.
Tic Tacs. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, they're about to pop in.
The crickets.
yeah, I can't say that.
Okay.
I would want to learn from them and ask why,
Okay.
right? Why do you believe? Because maybe I can say, oh wow, well okay, well maybe my thinking is a little off. Maybe I can kind of scale it because if I'm to evolve, right, then I'm always being willing to learn, right? I'm always willing to receive and to grow. But the things that I don't need, I don't have to take them, like plants.
Got it. You're convinced that all of your beliefs are accurate, but you're open to learning from other people and their beliefs, and that could help in you believing something that's true that you thought it was false before, or how does that?
Yeah. So my beliefs are 100% correct for my journey in life.
Okay.
At this point, am I open to learning? Yes, I have to be.
What did it say? 100%
Correct for my journey.
correct for my journey. That's something of like an appeal to the pragmatic value of the beliefs rather than the truth of the beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Truth as a subjective strategy.
Right?
His
Because-
beliefs are fit for his environment, something like that, like for his journey.
There are people who have more experience than me, right? So I have to be able to be receptive to learn a better way, right? It's just like, for instance, if I had a hammer, right, and I was just nailing this thing all day, right, but somebody created a nail gun. So am I just going to continue to use this hammer when I could literally get the job done more efficiently and faster using the nail gun, right? Because someone showed me a better way.
One way is more efficient or faster or just better generally. If you had a belief and somebody had a belief that was opposite of that belief, and both beliefs couldn't be, or could both beliefs be true at the same time? If
Absolutely.
And this is an excellent question, because this
Brilliant.
just picking the opposite, and if the person says yes, they can both be true, then you know exactly where this person stands on a relativistic truth claim.
Tic Tac's on standby.
Because what's true to somebody else may not be true for someone else.
Okay. I have a thought experiment
Okay.
that would help me with this.
Yeah, let's
If
do
you're
it.
game,
I'm
you okay
game.
on time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I have a box of Tic Tacs,
Okay.
and I don't know how many are in here, and I assume that you don't know how many are in here.
Right.
Would you say, though, that there is either an even or an odd number of Tic Tacs in here, just by the way that we define Tic Tacs? Like, there's no, it's not a trick question. Like,
Yeah.
there's no like half Tic Tac or anything
Yeah,
like that.
right.
But would you say that it's true that there's either an even number of Tic Tacs or an odd number of Tic Tacs?
Based on the numerical scale, yes. But then again, we have to look at the fact that where did the source of numbers come from?
The way that we define numbers, though, like,
Right. Yeah. The way that we define numbers,
Mhm.
yes, there's an odd or even number.
okay. How could we find out how many there are in here?
Pour them out and count them.
Okay, so if we were to pour them out and count them, and it turned out that we counted 20,
Okay.
and you and I both agreed that there were 20, we counted like 100 times, and we're convinced that there's 20.
20. Okay.
So that would be an even number, right?
Okay.
If somebody were to walk up and say that it was true for them, that their belief was that there were an odd number, would that belief be true?
Well, you have to get to the source as to why they believe that, right?
Would they be correct in saying that my belief is that there's an odd number in here? Would that be like if you had the choice of something either being true or false?
So if it's true or false, based on my belief, absolutely not. It's not correct. But based on their belief, I would say, well, why do you think that? Right? Because
if they were to say that it's my belief that there's an odd number, why would they be mistaken still?
You never know that. You can never know until you really allow yourself to learn from them why they believe that, right? Because they may know something scientifically that we don't.
Okay.
This person, random guy that walks up, could have been in science all of his life, and he's can tell you that, hey, what we believe was created in this form or fashion, right? But the reason why you think it's odd is because of the propaganda that's been pushed. However, it's odd because such and such and such and such, right? So we never know, and that's the problem. We take things for face value.
Mhm.
As a people, we take things for face value, and then we just judge based on that, but never look to the source.
So what's he saying? What?
I think I want to know if he's a flat earther, because I suspect that this is exactly the process that you get to flat Earth is you start to question things to the point where you deny everything, and then there is no truth, and it is, yeah. And then he was almost saying, whilst there is no truth, but we can also appeal to authorities, and that seemed like it was exactly the setup for a flat Earth position.
Yeah, there can always be ambiguity of whether you actually did the test right or not, but we want to bake into the thought experiment that we have the truth. It is even if someone else comes up and says it's odd. In that situation, are they mistaken? Is it possible to even be mistaken about anything?
Yeah, I think he's trying to maybe appeal to like this way of maybe looking at the world like, look, we can all believe what we want to believe, and it's all we don't. Who am I to tell you how many Tic Tacs there are in the box, and if you believe it, then maybe you're right. Which I think it's just I think it's maybe more of an outlook, kind of.
Yeah, I really love the Tic Tac uncertainty principle comment. So that was brilliant.
At this point,
I'm wondering if that's what he's saying.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying like, yeah, like there could be. I think he's still arguing about the definition of like somebody pushed propaganda onto you that it's an even number. Like he's still arguing about the definition of even and odd. Like maybe you're mistaken about what even or odd is. And so at this point, I would maybe like raise the stakes and like like you were saying, like on a plane, there's only one way to correct way to fly the plane. If the pilot was very confident that pushing the wheel forward would send us downwards, and he was confident the opposite way, and something like that, like raise the stakes, and can both be true at the same time. Are we going to crash into the ground, or are we going to stay in the air? Something like that.
The history of supersonic flight.
Stay tuned for more true thought experiments.
But
Yeah.
no, but I like his point about raising the stakes. I mean, sometimes those situations, I would say, if I'm at the store and I'm buying a box of Mentos, and I give the cashier $3 and it costs $2, and they give me back no change, and it's their truth that they gave me back the correct change. Are we both correct? Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, Mentos or very expensive Versace sunglasses.
Ooh. Those are some wicked sunglasses. I wonder, is the pattern on the front of them something that came from like a filter in the camera, or is that something visible to your eye in person?
No, you could actually see the pattern in those sunglasses. It kind of reminded me of.
So it's not a camera artifact. That's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. On the back window in a lot of vehicles where you got the little heater to defrost.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
but those
wear
glasses,
it's a completely different experience.
Those glasses probably cost more than my GoPro.
Wow.
And so we'll see some stakes raised here shortly.
Right.
Why people believe it, and that's why I say that when we embrace other people's beliefs, that we may be able to learn something from them that we've never thought that were even possible, right? Mm-hmm. But we rush our own biases and our own projections onto other people as to why we never really dive into truth, to their truth. And what may be true for them at the moment may not necessarily be true for us. But on that journey of them explaining, we may gain some particular truth that we never even knew about.
If-
so back
if
to
the
when
scientist-
I said that the original, bookmark this about how he doesn't like biases, and it would appear to me that having an outlook or the way he sees the world as epistemology, it's almost like saying everything is a bias. Everything is my bias. I'm whatever I want it to be. That's my bias. It is, and it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, a
he's made
good
a
question
virtue of.
might.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say a good to what you were saying, Mark. A good question right there might have been, what's the difference between my truth and my bias?
Yeah, that would
To bring back
to the initial
what he had said before about the
Yeah.
dangers of bias.
Or my belief and my belief that it is true. The belief that my belief is true. It's like a little meta.
He's definitely made a virtue of intellectual humility, I guess, and he wants to, and that's not a bad thing. But he's extended that virtue of humility to the mean that nobody can stand anywhere and say anything that is definitively true, which is a kind of philosophical skepticism, and not one I would disagree with. But then I think we have to start talking about, like, is there actually a truth? Is there a reality that we are in reference to? So I guess at this point, one question might be, what is truth at this point? What do we mean by something being true might be interesting.
Yeah, we get into his definition of what true is in a little bit. And whenever someone says my truth, what I interpret that is now, having these types of conversations, is what that means is it's their opinion based on their personal experience.
Yeah.
My truth
Right.
is my opinion based on my journey, my experience, and everybody has different experiences, so everybody has a different truth. And I really think that there's a component of compassion in there and open-mindedness.
Yeah, it's respectful. I mean, it means we don't have to argue. We can both be right, which
But I
is
think
quite.
I've had conversations like that where people will say my truth, and I really do. I think we uncover later, or that's what they mean, that you can have everybody can have their own truths.
You've definitely had those conversations, Mark. I've seen them, and
Well,
people are
yeah.
literally claiming to live on different planets or not necessarally agreeing. And it gets quite.
Well, wait
but-
for
but-
it.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe I have, but I think that the idea that we, we're in this sort of space where we're trying to argue about whether or not something is like true. Really, we really need to define what we mean by true, and I think that's just such a strange thing, but it has to be in reference to something, right?
Yeah.
It might be relevant to this. All sincere persons' beliefs have equal claims to respect. That might be part of it as well, like the respectability of the belief. People have
Yeah.
opinions. We should respect people's opinions.
Yeah.
Potentially part of it.
Were to walk up and they said, I'm a scientist, I've been studying science my whole life, 50 years, here are my credentials, and they somehow convinced us that they've been studying science for a whole lot of a long time, and they said that the number of Tic Tacs in here was odd. Would you say, okay, 30 means odd, or 20 means odd? I don't remember which
20.
number.
It was 20. Right.
If they said, okay, it's odd,
Right.
would them being a scientist and studying science for that long convince you that 20 means odd?
Well, let me ask you this. If a pastor walked up and told you that God is real and you have to be baptized to be saved,
Mhm.
because he was a pastor, and but you believe different,
Mhm.
right? And he said, well, you're not going to make it to heaven because you haven't been baptized. Does that make him correct?
No. And in addition to that, to answer your question, I think that it's either true or not true, regardless of what we think about it or what we believe.
Yeah,
Like
that's a good
either
response.
there's
Bravo.
a hell or there's not a hell.
Okay.
I think both can't be true at the same time based on
Okay.
what we believe. I feel you when you say we can learn from what other people believe,
Right.
and talking to them and have good conversations and asking them questions about why they believe stuff,
Mhm.
which is kind of what I
Right.
do. So I respect that about you.
Thank you.
And I think that somebody can be mistaken even though they hold a belief about it.
True. Well, we're human, right? We're not without error,
Mhm.
right? However,
That's a good way of asking a question there as well. You could ask, can any that because you hinted it there? Can anybody be wrong? As in, is there such a thing as being mistaken? If anything anybody happens to believe in the given moment is true for them, then that negates the possibility that anybody is ever wrong. And then you could ask, why would anybody ever change their mind? I mean, that's great. But honestly, that responding to his question, even though it was a digression from the question you asked, you listened to it and then you just gave a pitch perfect. I honestly, bravo, buddy. That was just fantastic. I don't think I would have been as patient or as charitable or calm, and it was just brilliant. So yeah, well done.
Thanks. I was really reluctant to kind of go that far. But I think that if somebody asks a question like that,
Yeah.
and I've been asking all the questions so far, they deserve to have their question asked. And if they're tossing me a softball, what I feel like is a softball and an opportunity to provide a different perspective on what truth might be, I would like to take that opportunity to offer that.
But you showed him how to answer the question as well. Like you demonstrated to him what an answer to a question like that should sound like. And so now he's got a frame of reference for when he's now answering those questions. And I think that's just a wonderful tool.
And there's some little things too, because sometimes, and I slip up on these parts too, there's a part where you pause and you say, and, because it's so easy in those little moments to say, but, because that's a natural inclination, because it's actually probably more of a but inference, because you're maybe contradicting something in what you're saying. But and says, I'm not saying you are wrong here. I'm just building on a conversation, which, it's not natural, but you did it. So it's cool.
Sounded natural. It was really good. Yeah, it was. But I know exactly what you mean, Mark. I fall into the big butt trap all the time.
I believe that there can be parallel truths, because 0 plus 1 is 1 plus 0, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can arrive at the same number, but you're changing the equation.
Right. What about contradictory conclusions, though?
Contradictory conclusions?
Yeah, like person A says hell is real, person B says hell is not real. You're saying that both of those could be true at the same time, or are you saying that?
Based on someone's belief, it can only be true to them. My truth, my journey. So it's like this, right? So my journey in life is not dictated by what someone else necessarily believes for them.
Mm-hmm.
My journey allows me to be able to embrace what they believe, dictated by what someone else necessarily believes for them.
Dictated. I think he's worried about forcing
someone. So it's
someone.
like this, right? So my journey in life is not dictated by what someone else necessarily believes for them.
Okay, so that
Influence
if he doesn't want to be dictated by other people's beliefs, he doesn't want to do the same for other people. So it's a kind of, back to respect potentially.
Yeah, I think he's concerned about influence. I mean, it was touching on that before. I think people influencing each other, positively or negatively.
It's like this kind of virtuous way of seeing the world, and
it's hard to get in his mind. So I tend to try not to do that. But the word that I'm thinking of right now is power
How so?
and his relationship with power. Like, I don't want somebody to have the power to dictate what I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
But
know.
again, it's hard to get into his brain.
I feel like what's happening here is that there's an intuition heuristic that he has here, which is that, you know, we don't want to be we don't want to be conflicting anybody else's lived experiences in some way, right? Or we don't want to negate somebody else's belief, that we don't recognize ourselves as the ultimate arbiter for what is really true. We are only responsible for what we consider to be true. And I think responsibility here is probably what we're conflating. But I think that intuition heuristic is allowing him to sort of build these edifices of logic or sort of these conversational structures that aren't really grounded in anything other than that heuristic. And they sound sort of profound, and generally I think they sound quite even-handed and sort of liberal, and they sound nice, and people will largely agree with people who make these kinds of statements. I think so. They're very agreeable, hard to disagree with in some way. But you're having a conversation about epistemology, about actual knowledge, and the nature of that knowledge. And I think that as a result, you're both talking in slightly different domains, and I don't see that it's an easy job always to sort of bring people into the same domain. But yeah, interesting.
But you'll see soon. But David really cuts to the chase. He just has a way. He asks a question. He says he stops everything. He's kind of scratching the record, and he has a way of just cutting to the fundamental point. I think we're gonna get to that soon.
Yeah.
My journey allows me to be able to embrace what they believe, right? So, for instance, as a people, when you were a kid and you say you scraped your knee, right? And your mom came up and she grabbed you, right? And you were like, oh man, you were screaming before she got there. But then as soon as she picked you up, all of a sudden, tears stopped. The pain didn't hurt. It subsided, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the same thing with people, right? Regardless if they're not our child or not, they're human. They have the same emotions, right? So a lot of times we look at the action versus the trauma behind the action. So we never get to the source of what's going on with someone. That's the same thing when it comes to everything in life, right? We never take the time to get to the source of why this person is who they are, right? Instead, we have our own biases, whether it be through religion, race, color, code, or creed, and never really fully learn the truth because we stand on our own truth, right? And that's what it is. But my journey in life allows me to see, to sit back and be like, hey man, I really want to get to know who you are. And the reason why I want to get to know who you are is because I know that you have something to offer. Like, for instance, I was just walking past here and I'm just like, interview, what? I'm like, well, okay. And then, you know what? And he was like, I want to talk about something meaningful. I'm like, meaningful?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm all about meaningful conversations, right? And so, but you getting to the source and getting to the heart of what everyone's truth is, right? And you learn something, like you may take something from my journey and be like, well, that shit made sense a little bit, right? And then I'm taking this like, well, maybe I can think on a different scale, right? And think from things through different angles. But I never would have looked at those particular angles if I never would have sat down and say, hey, man, what are you doing?
Cool.
Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's I believe that is the truth about life. We it's kind of like getting vitamins, right? Like people need the vitamin D from the sun or whatever, but when we embrace other people, beliefs and cultures and ways of life, and it's not about right or wrong, it's about what can I learn. When we get to that point, then I believe we will become one of the most powerful societies in the world.
Vitamin C, but the C is conversation.
Yes, that's it.
So, first of all, I just want to compliment on your shades. Those are like, they're pretty badass.
Thanks, man.
My question is, if I were to say that those shades belong to me, and then I need them back, would I be mistaken?
I would
And it's my belief that they're mine, and it's
Okay.
my truth that they're mine. Obviously, I'm not going to do that.
Okay. It's rough on me. Okay.
But
It's like air of
would-
tension, which I really
would I be
appreciated.
mistaken?
I would ask you, what makes you think that?
Because it's my belief.
That's it.
It's my truth.
Okay. Well, what made you come to that conclusion?
It's everybody has their own truth and their own journey, and in my journey, those are mine.
Well, that's understandable, but in my journey, I actually went to the store and purchased these, right? Which is what you have to do in order for you to acquire something. And so, in my journey, these are mine. Like, I get that you feel that way, and that's okay. You're allowed to feel every kind of way you want to feel, right? I can't take away from that, right? However, at this point, they're on my face. You know what I'm saying?
Is it true? Is it true that they're mine?
I believe it belongs to everybody, but they're in my possession at this time
Okay.
because everybody has access to them.
Okay. If my goal was to know what's true, whether I ever have the ability to actually do that, because of our biases and our perceptions, like you were saying, but if my goal was to know what's true, how would I go about finding out if it was true or not that those are my sunglasses?
Can
So
I ask you a question here? Just one
that's a-
second. Like how doxastically open would you say this gentleman is at this point? In fact, not even at this point, because I think he's been fairly consistent. So how open do you think he is?
I think I'm slowly kicking that door open.
He's thinking about it.
But I would say he has been very closed for the majority of this conversation. And I think what's interesting is that he's quite affable. He's a friendly guy. He's quite open. He's expanding on his themes. He's thinking out loud a lot. He's not giving any of the kind of standard signs that you might see from somebody who is deliberately evasive or closed in conversation. And I think that it's really interesting to notice that actually he really isn't open at all in much of this conversation. He's not really been. He's been very evasive of a lot of your points that you've raised and the questions you've asked, and he's changed the subject. He's moved on, and I think that can seem dishonest. It can seem like, and if somebody's being dishonest, or we suspect somebody of being dishonest, we also suspect them of knowing the truth. Right. So in order to be evasive, they must clearly know what's true, and therefore they're deliberately doing this to wind us up. And I don't suspect this is the case at all. I think what's happening with this gentleman is he started off down a road, and it's almost like a sunk cost fallacy. He's given his opinions now. He's expanded on his themes. He's not really looking to be proven wrong, so he's defending his theme. But in actual fact, I think he's a lot more closed than he necessarily appears, and as a result, he's not really internalizing the points that you're making. And I think you are right. You are opening him up, but it's interesting to notice how closed he really actually is, even though he doesn't actually seem like that.
I don't know
While
about
sounding
that.
open.
Closed. I think I see aporia in that last exchange. The way he responds, I'm not kidding. It's his response slows down, and he's. I think I don't know what I'm picking up on.
I think
maybe
he
we
was
can just
about
look
to-
at that last part for 10 seconds, but I think
He was getting ready to defend himself against Dave running off with his sunglasses. That's a fight or flight you're seeing. That's not aporia. That's Dave's going to have McLaren. No, I don't disagree with you. I think he was genuinely starting to reflect a little bit because he was realizing it wasn't as easy a point that he was trying to make, and I think that caused him to reflect. But this is the first time I think I've really seen him take that moment, and I don't think that's not anything. That's not a comment against Dave. I think Dave's been heroically championing this conversation brilliantly. I think it's a masterclass. But I think it's interesting that he's been so close to it, even though he sounds very relaxed and very open. I don't think he's really been reflecting, even though he's been given lots of interesting opportunities to do that.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a good way to tell of how he's feeling, and what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, real quick, first of all, I want to say, Will, you said you would find more mean things to say, and you just called it a masterclass. So you need to slow down. And secondly, it's really sort of difficult for me to figure out if he's being open or not, because he's saying a lot of things about, like, you know, I see other people and I want to take other people's views into account, and I want to like listen to other people and be open to other people. And when he says things like that, but then is very sort of defensive on his position, yeah, it's kind of hard to, you know, determine how open he actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A really good question. So in some cases, things are black and white, right? But for some cases, it leaves a lot of room for gray area. You know, like for instance, can we really say that the sky is blue, right? That's a color that was created by someone, right, in particular, who made the colors. So is that really a true blue sky, right? But it's based on I would say, what we were propagandized into believing.
It's what our society decides and agrees upon what we call that color.
Right, so we can only really know what truth is based on our own personal journey, right? What's true for me is not true for you necessarily, right?
What does true mean?
But we can have some commonalities.
What's your definition of truth?
My definition of truth, that's a good one, man.
Great question. I never asked.
My definition of truth is what is agreeable with my spirit.
What's agreeable with your spirit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've seen this video a few weeks ago, and I think I've clearly forgotten a lot of this. And I did watch the whole thing, but I'm just remembering how this goes.
From here on out was the reason I wanted to review this video.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know why I don't ask, like, what is your definition of truth? And I always make assumptions there.
This
It's
is
such
a
a
great
great
question I
question.
should have asked like 10 minutes ago.
Yes, that's it. Oh,
Or
damn
longer.
it. I'm robbed of my only ability to criticize because he got there ahead of me. I was literally just about to say that this would have been a good a bit earlier, but yeah.
Womp, womp.
Wop, wop.
Whatever agrees with your spirit.
For my truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Your truth isn't necessarily my truth.
Not necessarily your truth, because we have two different journeys. However, that does not mean necessarily that we can't have some commonalities in our truth.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because
What was that banner that just appeared at the bottom there? Did it literally say truth is what agrees with my spirit? Did you add that just now, or was that already in the can?
I just added that.
Oh my God, I swear to God, I'm so sorry. I just honestly, the number of times Reid is able to sort of call these things up and they're already in the can, it's just remarkable. And I thought if that actual one was in there, then I'm giving up. I don't even know how he deals with this. It's amazing. Sorry, I apologize.
I want to know, what's the difference then? What's the difference between the truth and opinion? Is there a difference between truth and opinion?
Yeah.
emotions are just like we can go through the same situation, right? Which the situation is very common for the both of us. However, our emotions may be completely different. Our perception of what happened can be different. If you go back and look at biblical structures, they were given the same account. They were all the same, you know, in the New Testament, they were all walking with Jesus, right? But everybody had a different account, right? And some of the perceptions and the stories were changed. Some of the words were different, right? But it was all the same experience, but it was their truth written down.
This is the blind man and the elephant problem. But there's an elephant. There's some connecting thing that they're
And we
all
agree that
experiencing.
there's something that we're touching.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of the same story.
Yeah.
Yeah. This might sound like a really weird question,
That's okay.
but I ask it because you'd be surprised at the answers that I get.
This just gets to the case.
Are you and I sharing the same planet?
You know? No. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I believe that we create our own world.
John's
It
going
gets
crazy.
to the chase. That's it. I mean, you're right. So if we're not even sharing the same world, I mean, you know, goodness, what are we talking about here? So
It's
yeah.
coming back to me as like a nightmare flashback. This is.
I
Okay.
like to go at the beginning. You were right. At the end of the video, it took a turn. I don't know what's going on
Goddamn.
anymore.
What a twist.
Yeah.
But okay, so a couple of things. One is the word planet there, I think, seems like it's loaded. Like it can be, that seems almost, the fact that it landed is just remarkable. But like, regardless of that, the fact that you and I are on the same planet seems like it's a bit uncharitable. It's an unkind phraseology, right? Are you even on the same planet as everybody else? Like it seems
but he
like
prefaced it. He said, "This is a
Right.
weird question."
Oh yeah, he totally
Right,
did, and it was good. It was good. It was okay, and it remarkably landed. But again, I'm wondering how much of this is like a conversational. I don't know. I've forgotten the term for it. You know, when you build up like the mechanism of a yes ladder, where if you ask questions in a certain order, people feel vaguely committed to their previous answer, so they no longer feel like they've got the flexibility because they want to be seen as being consistent. And at this point, this gentleman has literally claimed that like the your truth and my truth are, you know, where they are. I don't really know how much he really believes these conclusions. As in, if we were somehow to be able to take the end of this videotape and go back in time, and before we'd even had this conversation, show him this and say, do you agree what this future version of you is saying? I would be thinking like, no, I would be surprised if he would agree with that position.
So are you saying,
But
Will,
he's
that
kind of gotten
in this
there.
conversation you should, and it's an interesting thought, but in this conversation you should somehow build an off ramp, like say that, you know, I have beliefs and I've changed them, you know, while I'm talking to somebody, you know, have you ever?
Right.
I mean, you know, just to say it's give them permission, like it's okay. Look, it's all right to have a belief and change your mind. I mean, goodness.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, I want to say, I think this question is asked in a really fair way because it's, I mean, you could, if you were to ask the question, are we sharing the same world? You know, somebody could be like, oh, you know, I'm in my own world. You know, there's ways to phrase that where it's unclear or something like that, but it's very precise. Are we on the same planet? And he says no. So,
But that's what I mean. It's like almost like the least generous version of that claim, and yeah,
yeah.
But it really got to the point, to his.
it really did.
And I just
Yeah.
want to say that the ability to ask this question is contingent on the rapport that's already been built.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
If I had asked this question like the
Mm,
second
yeah,
question I
wouldn't have-
asked,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been as revealing or impactful, I guess.
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I believe that we create our own worlds, right? We are our own world.
Is that the definition of idealism?
Solipsism.
Oh, well,
It's an idealistic mode. You wouldn't necessarily have to believe in idealism, but just strongly take that we only have our internal model in our own head, and none of us actually has access to the real reality. And just take that to its conclusion. You don't have to deny materialism to live with that as the limit to your reality.
It
It's
doesn't
just
say that the
mind first
ultimate-
before reality.
it doesn't say the ultimate power in the universe basically rests with me.
Yeah.
I don't think he's talking about power. I think he's just talking about like he can't get outside of his own experience, right? And so all like it's almost, it is a solipsism view, right? Is that like the reality is what is appearing in a bubble around your perception, and anything that's not in that reality is almost non-existent or effectively non-existent. So the
Yeah.
world is what it appears to be to him,
Yeah.
and your world is different, right?
And I think he's only differing from solipsism in that he is not asserting that anybody else's is less valid. It's not like a unique one perspective. It's all perspectives, which is that's one nuance from solipsism.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what we allow into that world, like we are within we are within an atmosphere, right? We're all within an atmosphere, but I believe that each person is their own world. And it's crazy to really think about it in a way, because like what you allow into your world, you have that power. And I believe that a lot of people don't understand the power that they possess as a human being. Being in a place like this.
Why do you think it sounds crazy to say that we don't share the same planet?
Because it's outside of the normal spectrum of what, of what society tells us.
That was a good question.
Is it because society tells us that we live on the same planet? Is that what's causing you to think that we don't live on the same planet? Like, what's the main reason why you think we're not living on the same planet?
I would say that the Earth is the only thing that holds us here is gravity, right? That so to speak, right? So if we were to take away from gravity, right, we'd all be pulled in different directions, or maybe the same direction, or would we be pulled in any direction? Because literally, the direction is only given to us by society, right? So
understand
we don't really know we don't really know as people anything. I couldn't even say it. Maybe we do live on the same planet. Maybe we share it. I don't know. That's something I have no idea.
That's a good moment of rapport, I think, especially at the beginning. There was a lot of how am I going to answer this, but he's looking at these reflection moments as a problem to be solved, not as a moment to introspect, and that's why I think it's like the doxastic closure is apparent to me. Like he feels like, how do I maintain the truth of what I've been saying before? How do I remain consistent and accept the premise of this experiment, this thought experiment? And I think he was doing a lot of mental work there to try to work out how to explain this position, and that's why he moved from gravity holding us to do, but that was somehow a social construct. I've never heard gravity as a social construct before, so that is a brand new one, which I would not deny exists in the world as a principle. But yeah, I think that's how he kind of got confused by those two concepts, like society and
I don't know. I heard him say direction was a thing given by society. I don't know about gravity, but like still, it's very. I don't know where he's coming from. I didn't understand that bit at all.
I firmly assert that down is unambiguously the directions things fall, and east and west are the directions the sky moves in. The rest I can derive.
Yeah.
Can you say we only live on a planet because we were told we live on a planet? The word planet didn't come from. It had to come from some particular person, right? So we are all within somebody else's truth.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Just because we have language doesn't mean the concepts that the language refers to is socially constructed. The language is socially constructed. The concepts that they refer to can be real or not real.
Right.
And you can experience reality fairly reliably, and you can check reality with other people and get consistent results. And we can, like, this is stuff you can use to be confident the sky is blue and that we live on a planet. You don't need to go off society's consensus. You don't need to go off anyone's, some powerful authority that you're a victim of. Science can be used by anybody everywhere, and we're all in this together. So yeah, he's pushing the philosophical skeptic position, right? Which is nothing can be known for certain, therefore nothing can be known, right? And therefore all opinions are equal in that scenario, right? But then I guess what would be interesting here would be to say, when do you choose to consider something to be true? Like, what do you use to determine, even if it's just for you, that something is true? Because he internally must have a framework from distinguishing between things he presently considers to be true and things he presently considers not to be true.
If
It's what aligns with his spirit.
Oh, yeah, shoot. Yeah, you're right. I give up.
Conversation number 2.
The words that we use as a society, that we've agreed, for the most part, to use to define things, is that the main reason that causes you to think that we don't share the same planet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything's been pre-recorded for us, right? So we all basically are English or languages that we speak, right? The societies that we have, the buildings that's being built right there, right? That was an architectural structure to be able to do that, but all this stuff was done before. They had buildings without wood, like clay. They built them out of clay.
I'm not sure what he's saying.
And straw structures,
I'm not
right?
sure that he.
Way back.
It's like free
before we were-
association, I think, a little bit. And like, yeah,
Maybe it's
Yeah.
using it as a metaphor for the evolution of our technology to build stuff. Is also, knowledge also evolved over time from
Right.
simpler things. We now have more complex theories. We have better ways of testing what we're talking about. I don't know.
They made homes out of caves, and so all this stuff that's derived now, like we can't really say that, it wasn't given to us. It wasn't handed like, here, this is what you're supposed to say. When you go to school, you can't say this. This is what you're supposed to say based on someone's moral compass. Not
like
necessarily
people
our own.
can't dictate. Again, this is about the not dictating for other people, right? Not imposing other people's views on you. Like that seems like you mentioned that earlier, Reid, and I think that's coming back here again, right? This sense of imposition of other people's opinions and truths.
Or we shouldn't appeal to authority. Maybe.
Yeah.
Quote from Jean-Jacques Rousseau: "Man is born free, but everywhere is in chains." Like there's chains of society and what society believes,
like that.
and constrains your ability to think about stuff and do things. But like man, in like some primordial form, is more free and less able to be dictated. I don't know.
I don't know. I took that quote to meaning like everything else is in chains, as in there is a true state to the reality, but man is free to make mistakes about that. As in, we have the freedom to understand it or misunderstand it. We have that freedom, but everything else external, there is in chains, as in immutable. It is the case. There is something that is the case.
David, do you
Which
have
we would
thoughts of
describe-
where he is? Here?
We're imprisoned by our perceptions. Like our the chains of perceptions are holding us back from being free.
It's just society's set of values and beliefs that potentially constrain us because we're just embedded within society, socialized within it. I don't know.
Why do you think this is about society?
Because he's always talking about what
What's
society
given to us.
thinks, what's given to us from humans who made words.
Other people's views, yeah.
This is why I'm trying to find out if the word planet was a different word, how would that affect his confidence that we share it? Like, is it the word itself?
Or if there's all
I
no
think we
words
get it.
for planet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
we get it.
Sorry, okay.
I was just saying we kind of talk about that here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's anything that he would consider to be true for both of you in this moment. Like, you know, because we're kind of using a planet almost as a metaphor for like, is there anything that we can claim that there is an overlap? So I wonder if it's worth testing to see if he believes that there might be an overlap of truth somewhere.
He provides one. He talks about a telephone pole.
How does the word planet affect whether we share the same planet?
Good question.
How does the word planet affect whether we share the same planet? Is that what you said?
Because it sounds like you're not convinced that we share the same planet because of the word itself that was given to us.
Yeah, true.
So
I don't.
Is there? Sorry, go ahead.
What do we call it?
If we called it something else, would that raise your confidence that we share the same, whatever we're calling it?
Well, we could say this.
That's
is
good you
Earth,
didn't say
but,
planet.
You know,
That would have been wrong to say planet there.
This is such a great question, and I loved it.
A planet by any other name would smell as sweet. Like, what do we call it?
I was really worried that you were going to start crowdsourcing alternative names. That would be
Manet?
just like when we were talking about the sky, it's blue, right? Is the sky the sky? Is that light pole a light pole, or it could be, you know, based on the fact that somebody told us it's a light pole, or
Is there something there though?
huh?
Is there something there taking up that space that you and I can share, no matter what word we decide to name it?
Yeah. Are we sharing the same space? Yes, believe so. Is it a
Alright.
planet?
Okay,
Is it
okay.
Earth? I don't,
Right.
we
We
can't,
have
we
that
can't
agreement.
say
Brilliant.
Okay, good.
what it is based on someone. This is what I say, right? So one part that I do like about biblical teachings is it talks about being a body, right? Like, so we're all one body, right?
Okay.
And the foot can't say to the hand that I don't need to, or the eye can't say to the ear, nose, or whatever, right?
Like the body of humanity, or each individual body?
No, the body of humanity.
Okay.
Right? And so because we have this body of humanity and things like that, right? It's literally, we could say we're part of a whole body, but we don't have this understanding of each other's dysfunctions. And so in order to get to be completely in sync with the body, you have to allow yourself to understand the functions of each part of the body.
Okay. What would convince you that we do share the same planet? Is there anything that you could learn that you don't already know that would raise your confidence in the claim that we share the same planet?
Why are you asking the question right
I mean,
here, David?
It's like an SE conversation within an SE conversation, like, because it sounded like to me that he would make the claim that we do not share the same planet. I'm interested in what would cause him to shift his confidence about that.
So I think the interesting point was like, I really am not sure now whether you've gotten him to see the point a different way and come to a different conclusion, or he misunderstood what we meant by planet to begin with, or at least the example that you gave him about the planet, because he just said, with regards to the unnamed object that we will, just because of societal regime, call a telegraph pole or whatever it was, a lamppost. You were both in the same space, right? You were both seeing that same thing. There was a reality that was shared by both of you, which is exactly the opposite view that he seemed to be expressing in the shared the planet version. So I would have loved to have tried to contrast those two answers to understand why those two answers were different, because that seemed a direct contradiction. So either there was maybe a misunderstanding there, or maybe there's a point of reflection that he might want to do about why he gave two different answers in that space, or maybe there's a misunderstanding, but I'm not sure which of those it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of this too is ever since he shifted his confidence about his original claim about religion dividing people from 100 to 80, this is all gravy for me. Like, this is all bonus, because we had already had a conversation that caused him to shift his confidence in his original claim from 100 to 80. And it's like, if I was maybe a different SE practitioner, I would have ended the conversation after that. So this is all bonus. This,
do you think that's
know what I mean?
contributed you to being more relaxed in this part of the conversation, than that feeling that you'd already had some impact and had a meaningful conversation, so you were more relaxed now?
Yeah, I had already accomplished my mission. To have somebody shift their confidence in a belief that they have that's meaningful to them, one way or the other. That mission had already been accomplished, and now we kind of jumped into this other conversation. This is like two different conversations. One was the religion divides people, and now we're talking about relativism.
Yeah,
relative
whole new
truth.
plane.
Well, I think
Right.
well, I think we're seeing this. I see the same conversation. I think the relativism feeds into why the epistemology of his initial claim, and why I find, if you're new to SE, which is why I find these kind of things so fascinating, is I'd actually forgotten what the claim was, because I mean, I don't remember, because this is where change happens, because we're talking to somebody who has this belief, and it seems like a strong reason, or an epistemological reason, is how they see truth. And that's where I think the gold is in this conversation. And by changing this, or having, seeing it differently, then not only will that claim change, whatever it was, but a lot of claims could change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and having a good grasp on how they see truth, that's more important to me than any claim we could explore. Like, if they're not convinced that truth is objective, then the rest of the claims that they make, I don't really care about. I would rather focus on
what difference is it? Yeah.
If you're not concerned about having beliefs that are inaccurate, why should I care about anything you have to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're always learning. I could always learn more.
Is there a way for you to tell if we did share the same planet? Is there a way for you to find out?
Do I have a way at this very moment? Google. But then Google is someone else's.
Wow. Look around. This is like, actually look at the trees. Yeah.
Truth. This is what I do every day. I'll tell you this. This is how I live my life. I try very hard every day to encourage somebody. Every single day that I breathe. Every single day that I wake up. I try to wake up to encourage someone. And I try to learn from someone. Every single day. And if I do that, if I can sit with, so I'm a substance use disorder and mental health recovery counselor. And so I work with, populations that are, have struggled, and so I'm there with people as a peer counselor. I'm there with people, walking with them in their journeys in life, right? Without judgment, without bias. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you do drugs, that's fine. I just don't want you to be alone. I don't want you to ever have to feel like you're alone. Because people commit suicide when they feel like they're alone. People do drugs when they have vicarious traumas or traumas that they've been through in their life. And so I believe that is my love is, I would say, if I had to pick a religion, it would be to love someone.
I mean, that would explain a lot of his, like, that original intuition tool that we were talking about before. That would explain why he has that as such a fundamental principle. Like the idea that we're going to be tolerant is an absolutely immutable principle, and accepting and just not trying to override other people's expressed opinions, because in this role that he's in, this is a very necessary skill to have. And so I'm wondering if this has come to inform. I know this is, I guess, again, we can't know what people are really thinking, but I really would like to understand whether this is really what he thinks versus is this just how he's communicating his thoughts. Like, I think there might be a conflict here between how he's choosing to interact with this conversation and his true, like, analyzed thought on these points. Because those things can be very different, I think. And I think he's choosing to represent an ideal here rather than actually to reflect.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to say, so as much as I try to, like, hold it in, keep it in, I'm a very expressive person physically. And, like, hearing that, like, how can we find out if we're on the same planet? Google, like, I would have physically recoiled in that conversation and just been like, what? Like, I think I would have blown my cover. Like, there's no way I would have been able to hold a straight face and just keep the conversation as calm as you were. Like, I could not handle that. So
well
kudos
said.
for that.
Well said. Yeah, I totally agree. Would be the same.
Never know what you're going to get with SE here.
For real.
Any and everybody.
Isn't that Bob Marley? Love is my religion.
Yeah, actually it is. Yeah.
I wish you could end
Thomas.
with this song, that song. But
That was great.
Right.
Do you have any questions for me?
have been cool.
No, dude, I just enjoy life, man. I enjoy talking with people. You seem like a really amazing person. You ask the hard
5 out of
questions
10.
and not afraid to, and that's what people need in order to grow. You know?
Good combo. Good combo.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I just subscribed to your channel already, so I subscribed when I early did. So I'm definitely gonna look forward to seeing some more of this stuff, man.
That's great.
It's really coming down.
There you
Okay,
go.
what is with the techno ending music?
and look, I generally like this person. I think he's just, it's a real cool outlook. It's just we're discussing how you know what you know, and that's really what we're trying to get to the conversation. I just don't want to seem like we're ever being mean to someone or anything like that, which we're not, obviously.
And before I get all the emails, it's Ziggy Marley that sang that song, not Bob Marley.
Okay.
Okay, so I said earlier that was a masterclass. Clearly, I stand by that, because I really think, Dave, that was like how calm you were in the face of very convoluted, incoherent in some places answers and responses and evasiveness. And I genuinely, I know, as John was saying, I definitely would have reacted very differently to a lot of those answers in a way that I recognize was so unhelpful. And I think the way you responded to them, the way you were careful, the way you were thoughtful, the way you were listening, the way you were mirroring the kind of behavior you wanted to see from him, and I just honestly, I thought you did brilliantly there, mate. Bravo. That's all I can say. I really wish I could find something mean to say about you, but I honestly can't.
And it would have been easy to show frustration. And, part of, why we do this is we want everyone else who watches this to try SE in their lives. And it's amazing how far you can get if you can be more stoic in these conversations and not show frustration and just have a very calm conversation.
If that's what you're into, I recommend watching the Brittany one, and also the God is a Woman one. It kind of demonstrates how far you can go with remaining calm and not shooting your messengers and not following those rabbit holes that we sometimes go to.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany is such a good example of deep listening leading to a result. Your question's pointless, irrelevant. I'm kidding. But that one, with Brittany, your questions just kept her on a track and let her express it and hear herself, and then modify her own thing just from the reflection of it. Yeah, Brittany. And Brittany's, it's a slow burn. It's what, an hour and 15, something like that?
You could play the teaser real quick, and that'll kind of give you an idea.
Okay.
Of like that. What I normally do is I'll put what I think is the best example of aporia that maybe happens in the conversation at the very beginning as a teaser, and that'll kind of give you an idea of how it works out.
Okay, here it is.
I guess my question is: are you open-minded to being wrong about white women seem to have power over people of color? Are you open-minded? Are you open-minded to changing your view on that?
Shit, no, yes, I don't know. And the reason why I say this is because you know what?
That's the definition of aporia.
I believe in God, and I believe that there's hope. You know what I mean? But then too, I have to be realistic.
Okay.
I gotta be realistic.
You know what I'm pointing out, right?
Yes. I know what you're pointing out.
Okay, what am I pointing out?
You're pointing out that there's a possibility that people can freaking change and things can be better.
Boom.
And I want to believe that. But then again, me being me, maybe not. I don't know. Damn it. Oh,
That's right
gosh.
there.
I know.
That's
It's
SE in a nutshell.
contradictory. Because you know what? I want people to open their mind, but it's hard for me to open my mind because of what I've been through. You get what I'm saying? It's like, fuck. I don't know.
That's
Bravo.
SE.
Bravo.
That's awesome.
Okay, we don't need
I have
to
a
do it.
theory.
The teaser did it for you. No, how you get there is it's actually really informative.
David is, of course, had a good college try at doing claimless SE, where hidden claim SE, where he hides the claim, and then I think he was doing a thing, weren't you, David, where you were hiding the main reason. And I have a theory that David is attempting to bring street epistemology something to be akin to a Jedi mind trick, where he can literally do SE on somebody by just giving them a quizzical look from across the street, and he's just basically reducing all the factors to this kind of.
These aren't
Well,
the claims you're looking
I
for.
really like David. It's a really great conversation, and I really like looking at. I mean this. I really like looking at SE videos where afterwards I learned some things that can make me a better practitioner. And
same.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for sharing that.
Okay, one last thing I want to touch on. So Chase said in the comments, maybe when he said Google, he meant like researching. And I think that's a very charitable interpretation of like, how can we figure out if we're on the same planet? Maybe doing some research. Like that would be possibly like a way to do it. But I would like, even at that point, how much research do you need to like, we're sitting a couple of feet apart from each other. Like, I don't know, like that. Sorry, that one still gets me.
No, I think it raises something else that might be worth talking about just briefly. Is that I think that there's something about doing these review shows where we're sort of there's 6 of us here. We've heard this video. We're maybe laughing and being a bit uncharitable in our interpretations, and it's definitely not the same as having the conversation for the first time in real time. That's a very different thing. And I think to a certain extent we are looking and commenting not on the individuals necessarily, but on the types of responses. So it's not, I think what we're sort of commenting there is like the type of response which would give you something like somebody saying Google in that instance is what we're finding funny. We're not really laughing at the guy, and maybe in doing that by categorizing it as a type of response, we're perhaps missing some really genuine nuance that we would probably want to pick up on if we were there. So it's a fair shout.
I really like talking to Thomas, and I thought it might be cool if everybody just kind of flash bomb subscribes he's got like a tiny channel, like I think it's less than 100 subscribers.
Can we put it in the chat or somewhere? Or
I think Navigate with Nate pointed out he's already listened to the first few tracks and said it's pretty good. So there we go.
Yeah, it's actually really good music.
Yeah,
it's in the description. Yeah, there you go. If we could get him over 100, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
We can't hear anything.
Yeah, no, just
I get it.
Right. Well, he's got
so
sideways music videos.
Not the best way to experience a music channel.
The first one, Facing Demons, I think that one's pretty good. That's high quality, and it'd be cool if.
Are we gonna get copyright struck?
I don't know.
We're not playing the sound, so a lot.
Okay, we're good. Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, check it out.
Wow, cool.
I'm sub.
All right, any other last words? Anybody?
I really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out, and Reid for offering to review this. It's really cool. I had a good time.
It's a great video, David.
No problem.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Do you have the wave thing installed?
Sure, yeah. Everybody wave, yeah.